Welcome back, everyone, to the Cathedral of the Deep. We're almost done with this area, but there's still a couple of things that we need to do. Today we are wearing the Maiden set, which we found by one of the giants. It's in surprisingly good shape for something we found in a pile of goo. But beggars can't be choosers. Our current objective for this session is to explore the upper reaches of the cathedral, and also test out the Force Miracle, which is a lot of fun. It does no direct damage, but it will shove enemies quite a pretty good distance if they're not huge. And a lot of the time you can use this to your advantage and simply shove them off the ledge. It's not always the best miracle to take, but it's fun when it works. That enemy is somewhat unique. He drops the Deep Ring. One time only. The Deep Ring is essentially the Saint's Ring. It gives you an extra attunement slot. If you really want to go whole hog on spells, then simply equipping both isn't the worst thing you could do. You'll sacrifice some damage for it, though. This area up here is really quite dangerous. There is not an awful lot of room to maneuver, but as you might expect, that works both ways. There's also a whole mess of undead thralls here waiting to ambush you. Generally speaking, the thralls are never a huge threat on their own. It's just that the game always has this nasty habit of putting them in places where you really can't afford to do the necessary to deal with them. It would be a lot easier if I had a better shield, but I'm stubborn. This guy in particular can be kind of a nightmare simply because his attacks pretty much take up the entire walkway. There's not a lot of room to get around him, so you can end up getting caught in his swings pretty easily, even if you're trying to be careful. I don't need this Estus anyway, it's fine. You know what Estus in the bottle is? It's Estus that's not doing anything for you, am I right? I'm right. I'm absolutely right. The arbalest is a unique weapon. It's a crossbow. It is the heaviest and has the most base power out of all of the crossbow family. However, there are a couple of crossbows much later in the game that can, under certain circumstances, outperform them. Honestly, if you're using a crossbow, it's usually not for raw damage, so the arbalest is an okay choice. Now that we're done with this outer area, we can go head into the Cathedral Rafters proper. This is, somehow, an even more dangerous area. Thralls, no guardrails, some fairly finicky architecture. And me obsessed with using force, despite the fact that a sword would probably be better. It's fine. Sometimes you don't even need force, they just fall down. Case in point, that Great Sword Cathedral Knight might have been a problem, but not really. Gravity is equitable, accepting. One day we will all fall to our deaths. To be perfectly honest, I would not even recommend fighting these guys. Just run away. The chances that they will simply fall in the pursuit are pretty high, and trying to fight them on these narrow walkways without like a great shield or something is extremely difficult. If they don't fall, you can just kite them over to where that other Cathedral Knight was standing, where you have a little bit more room to work with. Spook is incredibly helpful here if you have it. It won't save you from a fatal fall, but to get down from here at all, there is quite a bit of mandatory falling to do. And just when I was feeling so clever that I didn't take any fall damage. As far as I'm aware, that's the only Cathedral Knight in the game that actually uses a crossbow. And it's actually the Arbalest. I believe he can actually drop extra copies of it if you are bound and determined to dual wield Arbalests, I guess. We've seen both of these fellows before.
Yes. Hello. Oh, I don't believe we've met. I'm Patches. Unbreakable Patches. You seem to be unkindled. Do you have business with me? Ah, oh, yes, of course. It's coming back to me now. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was my hand, as you know. But the deed, well, that was the armor's doing. Regrettable, truly. But behold, I'm stripped clean of that unruly attire. Look at you. Not a scratch. All's well that ends well, right? Yes, we'll be fine. I can tell. It's that rotten curse. It is. The untidy mess. Yes. Now, it wasn't me, but you still deserve an apology. Just a little trinket. Go ahead. It's yours now. You should know, I'm a kind of travelling merchant. If you're as unkindled as you look, you'll find plenty of good stuff.
Patches the Unbreakable has a wide variety of useful wares. Most pertinently right now would be the Catarina armor set, which is unmistakable. We're gonna buy all that up for now. We have need of it. He also sells black firebombs and rusted coins, which are both useful articles. The black leather set is also a very nice set of medium armor.
Thanks, sweetie.
So yeah, that's kind of Patches' thing. He tries to kill you, he fails, and then as a way of apology, he sells you some useful junk. I'm a little put off by the fact that he and the Grub Man were just sort of coexisting in peaceful harmony. You'd think at least one of them would try to kill and or kick them off the ledge. Speaking of which, we have yet more Grubmen to deal with. Now, we saw these before, at least one of them, in the giant pit. They are pretty non-threatening enemies, even when they have a magic catalyst to shoot fire at you. It's easy to dodge and it doesn't do a lot of damage. The main difficulty is that some of their attacks can come out quickly, and there's usually a lot of them. They are quite weak to fire, so Fire Orb works a treat here. They'll sometimes drop undead hunter charms too, and you can never have too many of those, especially if you're PvPing. This entire place is a little grisly. Well, I feel a little bad about this, but you are also an abomination, so maybe it would be best to just put you out of your misery. This is the only way in the game to get the red sign soapstone, which allows you to leave red summon signs. If a player chooses to summon you, you then appear in their world as a red phantom, and then you fight to the death. It's like Invasions, except not. It's a little bit more well, it's not necessarily more fair, but it certainly gives the host player more warning. I mentioned this in the last episode, but this is where you pick up Kirk's armor. This is the site of a covenant, Rosaria's Fingers. However, for reasons that I can't quite disclose just yet, we can't join. There would be consequences, which is fairly unusual for games like this. If you were to join it, it's just your bog standard PvP covenant. You equip it, you invade people with the red eye orb, and you have a good time. Or you get ganked by 50 people. Either way.
Hello? Hello? Anyone there? Anyone at all? Oh. I know that voice. Just how long has it been? It's me, Siegward of Cathedral. I'm loath to admit it, but I've been had. Someone's swiped my armor. Did you happen to see it anywhere?
Just a little light lie.
Yes, I see. Not to worry. Great planning begets great fortune. An old tenet of the Knights of Caterina. And I am a master planner, I do say. Ha 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 ha. I'm in quite a pickle indeed. Maybe I can fashion a replacement from I've got to use my head and think. Oh, my armor. My deepest gratitude. I, Siegward of Caterina, salute you. With my trusty suit of armor, I'll be out of here in a jiffy. Until we meet again, comrade. No need to worry about me. With my trusty suit of armor, I'll be out of here in a jiffy. Until we meet again, my good friend.
Mostly, I just wanted to make sure that we got his lines about being a master planner on camera. Siegward is a funny guy. At any rate, we now no longer have access to the Caterina armor, but, you know, I wasn't gonna really use that anyway. He's sort of obscure in that little well in the corner that you would have no reason to visit, but if you know where to look, you can continue the quest line. Without his armor, he will presumably be stuck in there forever. I guess he's just too embarrassed. At any rate, it's time to finally get this darn tower key. I briefly consider some other purchases. And settle on the Sage's big hat. I love big hats.
Ashen one.
It becomes available for purchase. classy. It becomes available for purchase after you defeat the Crystal Sage. It's also got a sort of neat plague mask look going on for it. It's quite heavy for caster gear, but it's also fairly protective for its weight, so it works out in the end. Now we just have to wait for the fog to dissipate. Since we've beaten off a few both scripted and non-scripted invasions, we have access to a seed of a giant tree. When used, this seed will turn all enemies in the area hostile towards enemy invaders. So it's a good get-out-of-jail-free card if you just really don't want to deal. Still, it does open up some dangers of its own. For instance, if the enemies can aggro onto the invader, then there's nothing really stopping them from simply bringing them to you in a big conga line. The first reward for opening up that tower is the Crystal Lizard with some valuable Twinkling Titanite. We can explore this rooftop area, but there's nothing really here until we go inside. Inside, we're up on yet more rafters. Fortunately, there's no angry Cathedral Knights to bar the way.
Me, Pickle Pee. Me, Bumperum.
Well, that was interesting. Of more immediate import is the Estus Shard. However, not really any less important is Pickle Pee Pumperum the Crow. As in all previous Souls games, this crow acts as a trader of sorts. You can leave specified items and get unique ones in return. For instance, the Siegbrow that we got from Siegward will get us the Armor of the Sun, a very familiar and quite popular suit of armor from the first Dark Souls game.
Pickle Pee. Pickle Pee.
You also get a special gesture from it, which is one of my favorites. Now, the thing about Pickle Pee is that, unlike crows of ages past, there's really no indication of what you should give her. In Demon Souls, it was something sparkly. In Dark Souls, it was something snuggly. In Dark Souls 2, it was something smooth and silky. In this game, it's sort of a random assortment of items. Best as anybody can tell, Pickle Pee is after items that can be used as musical instruments. Now, some of these are sort of a stretch, like fire bombs. I would not recommend using those as an instrument. But others make a bit more sense. The Siegbrow barrel can be used as a drum, or even like one of those old-timey jug bands. And a bone can be used as a drumstick, or maybe even a flute if it's hollowed out. Still, it's really difficult to know what exactly Pickle Pee wants. unless you go to a wiki or something, which I was eventually forced to do. There are a couple of items somewhere along the line that just don't make any sense whatsoever, but that is a matter for another day. For now, let's finish up exploring. That sounded ominous. The primary item and reason you want to come up here is the Firekeeper Soul. Its purpose is as of yet unclear, but in time we will understand what it does. Unfortunately, we can't just use it to upgrade our Estus Flask like we could in days gone by. Now, what the hell is this dark sigil thing? I've got 4 of them now for some reason, and they sort of give me a bad vibe. Still, both items make mention of a tale of a firekeeper who traveled to the Abyss, so they are more than likely intertwined. Well, down we go. Oh, good.
Sorry, friend. Be more careful. By the gods, curiosity is going to kill you, kittens. Some places are better left alone, you know. Oh, sorry. Am I a tad too late? Have no fear. There's beauty in death. Besides, you're amongst your own. Plenty of company, right? Oh, no matter. I'll look after things. By stripping every last trinket off your corpse, you're going to make some lucky customer very happy. Oh, no matter. But you...
Patches has grown somewhat more determined as of late and is now trying twice to kill us. And given the only way out of here, he might actually succeed this time. Still, let's spook, drink, get a running start, and make for that little ledge where we saw the glowy. We can land there safely. Or we can just sort of bounce off and die. You know, you win this round, Patches. I could have just used a homeward bone, but I do want that item. Now, this death illustrates something. We appear to have gone all beef jerky-like. Yes, hollowing makes a return in Dark Souls 3, though it is a somewhat more arcane mechanic than it used to be. For sake of appearance, let's keep that mask on. You can also tell that we've gone hollow due to the way our Covenant icon looks in the upper left-hand corner.
Oh, then shall we begin? Bearer of...
Yo, I'm having a bad day. Hook me up.
Ah, you have attained ample strength. All will soon be clear, my good lord. Be safe, our lord.
I appear to have been promoted. I don't quite know why, but Joel has been a good friend thus far, so let's just roll with it. Now, as for people that have not been particularly good friends, we must have more words with Mr. Patches.
Ah, oh, you're alive.
In a manner of speaking.
Hold your horses. Let's have a nice talk about this. I'll come clean. I did you wrong. I didn't mean it, though. Not one bit. You get these urges, running the business and all, and I hate myself for it. I do. You know what I mean. Terrible, really. But I can see you'll forgive me. You're alive, after all. And that's what counts, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Fantastic. A wily second chance. I knew you'd understand. I just knew it. The heart of a lion. A model for the rest of us. A true friend. Forever. We're just a couple of outcasts. Let's make the best of it.
Patches' services as a merchant are useful enough that it's fine, I forgive you, whatever, just sell me stuff. I believe this is also the first time that I've shown off that you can actually just sell your usable souls,
Thanks, sweetie.
rather than go through the animation each time. It's marginally faster and you don't have to go in and out of menus. It's not even limited to certain NPCs, like it was in Dark Souls 1 where you had to feed things specifically to Framp. Alright, let's try this again. Like I said, whether or not we succeeded in escaping, there are items down there that I do want. Oh, not quite, but at least we survived this time. And there is a consolation prize. The Estus ring, when worn, will increase the recovery you get from drinking Estus flasks. Healing ones, that is. It has no effect on Ashen Estus. The observant among you might recall that is actually the door that the Swordmaster was guarding. I don't quite know especially why. Especially since that door doesn't even open from the side he was on. He wasn't guarding it. Maybe he was trying to get in. Maybe he was just a weird old guy with no clothes. The world may never know. Alright, third time is the charm. Good luck always comes in threes. 3 is the magic number. Please don't make me come up here again. Line myself up real nice and tight here. Cross my fingers. Made it. Our reward for this harrowing act is the Firekeeper set, which also brings to mind the true purpose of this area. Grimly enough, it appears to be a mass grave for Firekeepers, which is what Patches meant by saying you're among your own kind, I guess. A morbid fellow, that one. It's a pretty nice look, all things considered. It's what the Firekeeper inside wears. Minus the big hat, of course. Her choice of headwear is considerably more ornate. We don't have access to it to begin with, so might as well just stick with this sort of Black Witch look. It's nicely protective, looks nice, doesn't weigh very much, has some nice resistances to certain status effects. Alright, with all of this nonsense at Firelink out of the way finally, it is time to completely 100% for realsies finish up the Cathedral of the Deep. I'm just gonna switch through some of my spells here. Going entirely with fire here, including the stupid-ass bursting fireball, because if there was ever a situation wherein this spell would be useful, it's coming up. The upper area of the cathedral that we explored earlier in the episode is actually completely optional. On my first run through here, I never even realized it was there. I got the deep ring from the Deacon and just never really realized that I could also go up that little outcropping out on the ledge. I'm pretty sure that was a dart. I think that was too. Under ordinary circumstances, I would just use the knife's quick step to get through here quickly, but I actually want to conserve all of my FP. So I must roll like some sort of filthy peasant. You want to know what the great thing is about a lot of enemies in Dark Souls? You can just run past them. They won't even care for the most part. This is the boss of the cathedral, the Deacons of the Deep. That was so bad. You would think that this enormous throng of dudes would be the place where you use bursting fireball, but no, it's just garbage. Complete ass. Who balances these games? Alright, the boss. Sorry, the boss. To damage the boss, you need to kill the Deacon that has the red aura on them. There are many ways to go about this fight. Area of effect spells is one. Having a big ol' honkin' weapon is another. Great swords in particular will make short work of this boss, simply because you can cut through enormous swaths of the enemy without expending much stamina. A straight sword will also work, but it hits less enemies at once, so it leaves you more open. There are two types of Deacons in here. There's the short kind, which don't have very much health, the tall kind, which have more health, and the big fat kind, which have a lot of health and don't stagger easily. Usually it's better to just try and avoid the fat ones. Taking them out takes a lot of effort. And I don't believe that the red aura will ever go to one. At least I've never seen it do so. That does not mean it never happens. This is not a difficult fight. The key is hidden away. However, at about halfway, they do change things up. Once you've got the bar down to the spar, the Archdeacon himself arrives and now plays permanent host to the red aura. He himself has a couple of different moves, and he empowers his minions to do some new things. All of these involve some of the tall Deacons throwing up their arms and sort of feeding darkness into the sky. If you can at all help it, you want to interrupt this with either killing them or just hitting them. If they manage to complete their channeling, they will either fire a large dark orb at you, which hurts a lot and causes a lot of curse, or they will start to gradually fill up the room with darkness, which puts a passive curse debuff on you, and essentially adds an enrage timer to the fight, so you need to interrupt it whenever you can. Unless you're confident you could just kill the Archdeacon as quickly as possible. The Deacons are quite resistant to most magic, but fire works okay. Physical damage is probably your best bet, unless you're a pure caster character. I'm sort of mixing up Fire Orb and physical strikes just because I can. Using exclusively one or the other is not necessarily a great idea. When the Archdeacon falls, so too does everyone else, and we get the small doll and the soul of the Deacons of the Deep. And also, a much appreciated restored ember. This character, I should really invest in some more vitality. That will just about do it for this episode, though. Now we can take comfort in the fact that we are, in fact, 100% done with this area. Also, we got some really sweet robes and a hat out of the deal, so I would call that a win. Next time, we'll see what our options are, but until then, I wish you a fair and pleasant journey.